Chris, tell us, why are you here?
So I'm here, at least principally as a speaker and a moderator for some of the panels. But more importantly, this is a great function in the space industry, a meeting of people, many of whom I know, and an opportunity to meet others. And amongst the many different conferences that happen in the industry, this one's a little bit different because it's a different crowd of people. It's insurers. It's kind of like going to some kind of a law, retreat or whatnot. It's going to have a different angle to it than your normal technology enthusiasts or startup companies. And it's always helpful to hear a little bit of a different perspective. People that are a little more risk off than the normal crowd that I hang with. But you got to look at all the different viewpoints.
Okay, and I heard that you are founders, so you're a startup. You just came out with this amazing idea.
I spent the last 20 years as a industry term, a sell-side research analyst. And to put it in simple terms, when you watch the evening news, or if you're a fan of CNBC and you hear that, Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley upgraded a stock or raised their numbers, that's what I do. In the financial services industry, there are a number of brokerage firms, literally a couple hundred globally, that provide very tailored, specialized financial research on industries. And so a shop like the one that I work for, Raymond James, which is headquartered down in St. Pete, Florida, or if they're Goldman Sachs in New York, might have 5 or 6 different analysts that cover different aspects of just healthcare. Biotech, hospitals, medical devices, pharmaceutical. My niche, oddly enough, and the reason I'm here, was the satellite and space area.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
And so I have written financial research as well as broader industry research on the space industry and the public companies like the Intelsats, Viasat, Digital Globe, Iridiums, and Orbcoms of the world. And by virtue of doing that, I have shared my research with some 2,000 to 3,000 friends, both people in the industry, the venture capital world, private equity, law firms, professional firms, universities, government agencies, have read my research for the past decade on the industry. So with that as a background, about 4 or 5 months ago, I went independent, left my former employer. I'm basically doing the same thing in terms of the research that I'm writing. But I'm also able to go out and do some additional consulting work, which was something I was prevented to do for regulatory reasons.
Okay. How do you personally see the space or space area in, let's say, 2040? What will have changed?
What's happening now is there is an unprecedented level of change that's overtaking the industry in everything from the technology to the types of services and applications that are being delivered, to the way that things are getting funded. They're not getting funded by NASA or DARPA or the Air Force or Boeing. They're getting funded by venture capitalists from Sand Hill Road in Silicon Valley.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So you've got literally a couple of dozen venture capital firms that have come in and made very high profile investments. You've had some success stories of companies like SpaceX, which was a VC-backed firm, now has a private company valuation of $11 billion. Another company called Skybox Imaging, which was a handful of guys from Stanford working on their MBAs, decided to start up a company to build little small imaging satellites. Lo and behold, 5 years later, it was sold for $500 million to Google.
Not too bad.
Not too bad. So in both cases, those individuals and the venture capital backers, it was a good outcome. And what we've seen now is, at this point, there are literally a couple dozen companies that are now trying to build rockets. There are several dozen companies that want to build constellations of satellites to do everything from tracking ships to machine-to-machine, Internet of Things, voice, video, real-time video from space, 24/7.
I love the idea. Yeah, thank you so much for your time.